Hello everybody, this is Willie McCullum 700 McCullum Small Engines. In today's video I'm going over my Pro Z100 Cub Cadet. Now this is a voiceover, so that's what it's going to be in this video today. I bought this mower with a blown engine and I got it for real cheap, fixed it up and got it running. So this is more of an update video on that Confidant I put on it. So for a while this mower had an opposed twin Briggs, that engine locked up. It had a intake Briggs, that engine started acting erratic. So I rebuilt the Confidant engine and it started smoking, so I got rid of it and I put this Kohler engine that came off of an old Craftsman garden tractor on it. So the issues I had with it as far as the front end goes was where the steering caster rod goes to allow it to pivot, the top where the keep the grease sealed popped off, so I had to fix that and I had to change out the grease because it was contaminated. So I put new grease in it and cleaned the bearings. So this mower had tire problems. It had tire problems with the front and rear. I had to fix both front and rear tires, mainly the rear tires, to keep them from going flat. I had to put a plug in one of the tires. There's the engine there. It's a Kohler engine that I put on there from an old Craftsman garden tractor, like I stated earlier. All I had to do to it was some wiring work to get it to work in there. As far as wiring the engine up, I didn't have to modify the frame in any way. So motor bolted right in. So there's wiring going to the starter. There's wire coming from the voltage regulator to charge the battery, and there's a wire going to the engine kill switch, which I have separate from the ignition switch. So you turn the switch on, it won't start the engine unless you turn the engine kill switch on. So that's how that works. Other than that, the engine on this mower has hydraulic lifters, a carburetor, and it has electronic ignition. Because the Confidant engine that was on it was an EFI engine. So that was one of the issues I had with it, was having to look at the fuel injection. It was getting fuel, and then it come to find out the intake and exhaust valves were opening up because the plastic camshaft inside the engine broke. So I decided to buy the mower from the guy, and I showed what was wrong with it to the guy I bought it from. I told him, I looked at the injectors, it was getting fuel. Then I opened the valve covers to adjust the valves, and the valves wouldn't open and close, and that's when he decided to sell it to me. And then this mower ended up in my hands after I had the money. I gave him the money, I bought it. Now I cut grass with it, and it works. Another thing I'll point out is on the cutting deck, the only issue I had with it was the belts, and that's about it, and changing the blades. Now I go under the mower to show you a couple things. There, I made a funny mounting bracket for the clutch because the clutch stop broke on it for the electric clutch, because I was cutting grass and due to the strain of that clutch stop it broke. So I took some tubular steel from a road sign that we found on the side of the road that a company left behind, and then we used some leftover cut pieces from it. I put a bolt and some washers to hold the hook in, and I put a bolt to hold it where the clutch stop will normally mount. So on the engine I had to when I put this Kohler engine on, I had to order a 1 1/8 inch diameter bore hole for the pulley. Had to get a new pulley with a 1 1/8 inch diameter bore hole, and that explains why there's a Husqvarna electric clutch. You can see the wires I kind of routed them the way I did, so that way they won't rub against the belts, and that way when the clutch turns it won't rip them out of the connectors. So I cut some extra wire to make it longer. And then you can see there's the little mount that holds the bar in place to keep it from turning the engine. Not turning the engine, turning the clutch. Although I did have some issues with the rebuilt Confidant engine, which was a major oil leak. It was leaking so bad that the engine would smoke too, along with it blowing smoke out of the exhaust. And it would wear out the drive belts to the transmissions, because oil and belts don't mix, from my experience. So it had a really bad oil leak. Now this Kohler engine I put on it here, this new Kohler engine, it didn't have the oil. It doesn't have an oil leak. However, this Kohler engine came out of a Craftsman garden tractor, and it had a compression release on it. I took the motor to my diesel school that I go to. My instructor was okay with it. I took the compression release cam out and put a regular cam in it without the compression release. And then it didn't have any oil leaks, to my surprise, primarily because Kohler suggests using silicone instead of a sump gasket, and these Kohlers were bad about leaking sump gaskets if they had the sump gasket, which is probably why they used a silicone bead around the oil sump. And I had an issue with where I overfilled it with oil and it wouldn't run properly, but I managed to get that fixed, and it took care of the problem. I managed to fix the problem by draining some of the oil out and filling it to the proper oil level, and it took care of the problem. So on these commands, be aware of how much oil you put in them, or they're not going to run right. If you have an overfilled oil crankcase problem, your engine's not going to run right if it's a Kohler command, and I found that out the hard way. So, and then the deck, I want to go over it very lightly. The deck on this lawnmower, all I had to do to it was change the belts and blades and grease the spindles. That's all I had to do with it. But I had to do some electrical work to install the engine. I mean, it's held up better than my time cutter or my Kubota. But Kubota is a good mower too. Toro time cutters are perfect for small residential yards used once a week. You know, but I'm not a Toro fan when it comes to their residential stuff. Now, their Z-Master mowers are good mowers. So are the X-Marks. Those are good mowers too. And you can see I go over the transmission ZT3400s, which are actually pretty good transmissions. I got to change the oil in them though. There's the oil reservoir, which you do not fill from the oil reservoir, from what I understand. What I've heard, you do not fill it from the oil reservoir after using it. It says do not top off is what I'm going at. So you just can't top them off. So thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you later. Bye.